Picture the patio table at your neighbor's house on a Saturday evening. There is a $12.58 fogger can by the back door, already half empty. A $5.56 citronella bucket burning at the center of the table. A $4.97 spray bottle making the rounds. That is $23 of mosquito products on one patio, bought fresh this week, and somebody is still slapping at their ankles before the corn gets passed. Now step over to my porch. 4 little dishes on the table and by the chair legs. Crushed cloves from the spice cabinet, about $2 worth. A box fan set low, aimed across the knees. Not a single container of standing water left within 50 feet of the house. That is the whole setup. The cost tonight is about $2. The mosquitoes are not gone from the county, but they are not at this table, and nobody went to the store. You were not buying mosquito control. You were buying the same temporary comfort over and over. The candle that burns down, the spray that wears off, the fogger that empties. Because nobody has a reason to teach you the $2 version that does not need replacing every Saturday. There is no money in showing a family how to crush a few cloves and turn on a fan. There is a great deal of money in selling them the next can. By the end of this video, you will know exactly how to build that $2 porch setup, what it honestly does and does not do, and why the seasonal aisle would rather see you back next weekend than teach you the old way once. Every price will be on the table the whole way through. I want to be straight with you before I go further. The lie going around the internet is not that these products never do anything. The lie is that you need a different product for every summer evening you want to sit outside. You do not. What you need is to understand 3 things: where mosquitoes come from, how they find you, and what they cannot stand right up close. Once you understand those 3 things plainly, you can build yourself a little porch setup for about $2 that makes your sitting area noticeably more comfortable, without another trip to the store for a fogger that runs out or a candle that barely works past the flame. Now, I am not going to stand here and tell you that one kitchen spice kills every mosquito in your yard. That is not true, and I would not insult you by pretending it is. What I am going to show you is a 3-part porch system. Stop the breeding, set up a close-range scent barrier with crushed cloves, and add a fan where you sit that handles the problem where the problem actually happens, which is the chair you are sitting in. By the end of this video, you will know exactly what to do, what it costs to the penny, what to honestly expect, and when to stop fooling around with kitchen tricks and use a real repellent. That is the promise, and the figures will be plain the whole way through. I am Dot. I grew up in Kansas watching my mother keep a porch usable through July and August without running to the store every time something bit. She had screens that she kept patched. She had a broom and a rhythm about standing water. She had whatever was in the kitchen that smelled strong enough to bother a bug. And she had common sense about where to sit on a warm evening. She spent almost nothing because she attacked the problem where it lived, close to the house, close to the chair, close to the body. That is the tradition I am handing you today. Not magic, just the quiet way a careful household handled it before somebody decided every summer problem needed its own product from the seasonal aisle. Before I show you what to do, you need to understand why it works, because that is what tells you what to expect and what not to expect. Mosquitoes do not bite because your yard has bugs in some vague way. They find you by following carbon dioxide from your breath, the odors your skin gives off, and your body heat. They prefer still, sheltered, damp spots, which is exactly why a shaded porch corner with no breeze can feel unbearable, while the open edge of the same yard feels manageable. The old method only works when it respects that reality. Now the clove piece, plainly. The reason clove has a real place in this is a compound called eugenol. Eugenol is the chemical that gives clove its strong, warm smell, And there is legitimate published research showing that clove-derived materials can repel mosquitoes. That part is real. But here is the honest part, and I want you to hear me. Plant-based repellents fade fast because the compounds that do the work are volatile. They evaporate into the air, which is how you smell them. But it also means they do not last long. A bowl of crushed cloves near your chair creates a stronger scent zone right there, and that can make mosquitoes less interested in landing on you in that small space. It does not mean a handful of spice will clear your whole yard or replace proven protection when disease is a concern. Now let me say something plain about turmeric, because there is a great deal of bad advice on this one. There is some laboratory interest in turmeric extracts and a compound called artemisinin as a larvicide. But laboratory extracts in controlled concentrations are not the same thing as scattering grocery store turmeric powder around your patio and expecting it to work like a tested repellent. In this video, turmeric gets the honest label. Interesting science, but weak evidence for this exact household use. I would rather lose a prettier title than lose your trust. Now the second mechanism, and this one is strong. Mosquitoes are weak flyers. A simple household fan aimed across the area where you sit does two things at once. It disrupts their ability to fly steadily, and it blows away the plume of carbon dioxide and body odor they use to zero in on you. Research from University Extension Services confirms this plainly. So the honest cheap porch trick is not one spice that kills everything. The real cheap porch trick is clove plus moving air plus no standing water nearby. Expect a noticeable reduction in a small seating zone. Do not expect yard-wide extermination, all-night protection in swampy weather, or disease-grade protection from kitchen spice alone. If that kind of plain, dollar-on-the-table teaching is useful to you, subscribe. I put one of these out every week. The old ways that keep money in your pocket and sense in your household. Now let me show you exactly what to do. The first part of the system costs nothing, and it is the strongest thing you will do all summer. Once a week, and again after any good rain, I want you to walk the area around your house and empty, scrub, or turn over anything that holds water. Buckets, planters, children's toys left in the yard, bird bath saucers, flower pot trays, trash can lids, old tires, anything tucked under a deck or porch. If you store rainwater, cover it tightly. If you have a bird bath you love, refresh and scrub it out instead of letting it sit. Mosquitoes can breed in surprisingly small amounts of standing water, a bottle cap full, in the right conditions. And a weekly rhythm matters far more than one heroic cleanup in June. This is the part most folks get wrong, and I want you to hear me. They dump the water once and walk away. But mosquito eggs and the film they leave behind can stick to the inside of that container, and the next rain fills it right back into a nursery. Scrubbing matters. It takes an extra 30 seconds per container, and it is the difference between clearing the problem and just postponing it. This method is strong. The CDC has said it plainly for decades. It costs you nothing but 10 minutes and a little attention. That is the first layer. Now, the clove microzone. This is the one that earns the $2 figure in the title, so let me be exact. A bag of whole cloves runs about $5.99 for 3.5 ounces at Walmart, or about $7.19 for 4 ounces, depending on the brand. You are not using the whole bag. For one porch table or 2 chairs, you want 4 small sources, one near ankle level on each side of where you sit, and 1 or 2 up at tabletop height. Use old jar lids, ramekins, little bowls, whatever you have. If you want sachets instead, use a scrap of cloth, an old nylon stocking, or a coffee filter tied with string from the junk drawer. Put about a small spoonful to a tablespoon of whole cloves in each dish or sachet. Start modest. You can always add more. Now listen, this is important. The cloves need to be gently crushed just before you set them out. not ground to powder, just cracked enough to break them open. If you leave them whole and hard, you get less aroma into the air and less eugenol reaching the mosquitoes. If you grind them too fine and scatter them, you waste them and lose control of where the scent goes. A light press with the back of a spoon or a quick few taps in a bag with a rolling pin, that is all. Place them close to where people actually sit. A porch edge, a side table, a chair arm, a windowsill, a doorway. Not out in the far yard, not flung across the garden. This is a close-range helper, and it only earns that name when you keep it close. Refresh by recrushing or replacing when the smell drops off, after wind, after damp weather, or simply when your nose tells you the scent has gone quiet. Here is what to honestly expect. A small, noticeable reduction in mosquito landings close to the bowls or sachets, especially for quiet evenings sitting on a porch or deck. You are building a little no thank you zone, not declaring war on the whole county. That is a mild to moderate scope, close range only. Using roughly a third of that $5.99 bag puts your cost for one evening setup right around $2. And many of you will spend less if you use smaller bowls or refresh the same cloves once or twice before replacing them. I want to be clear about where not to use this as your only answer. Not thrown across the yard as if it were a pesticide. Not treated as a skin repellent. Not relied on as your sole protection during heavy mosquito activity or when your area has a mosquito-borne disease alert. The CDC is plain that the effectiveness of non-EPA-registered natural repellents is not established the way registered products are. When conditions call for real protection, use a real EPA-registered repellent on your skin. That is not a failure of the old ways. That is the old-fashioned good sense of knowing what a tool can and cannot do. Now the third part, and I will tell you honestly, this is the workhorse of the whole setup. Put a fan where you sit. A basic 20-inch box fan runs about $26.38 at Walmart, and most households already own one. Set it low, knee to waist height, and aim it so the air crosses the chair or table instead of blowing straight out into the yard. Use low or medium speed. You are not building a wind tunnel. You are creating a steady current that does two jobs. It makes it nearly impossible for a mosquito to fly steadily enough to land on you, and it scatters the trail of carbon dioxide and body scent they follow to find you in the first place. Pair the fan with the clove bowls so the moving air keeps the scent hovering around your sitting zone while your human odor plume gets broken up. The two together are better than either one alone. The fan is strong for immediate comfort. This is the most noticeable single improvement in the whole system. And I would not hide that from you just to make the spice sound like the hero. If you already own the fan, the working cost tonight is about $2 for the cloves and nothing for the water walk and nothing for the fan. That is the honest figure. Now let me tell you where this comes from, because you are not learning something I made up. The genuine old household tradition was never one magic ingredient that wiped out a yard. It was simpler and better than that. Careful American households, my mother's household, her mother's before that, controlled mosquitoes with screens they kept patched, drainage they stayed on top of, breezy porches they chose to sit on, and whatever was at hand that smelled strong enough to help. Smoke from the fire, herbs hung by the door, cloves or other spices set near the chair. They spent almost nothing because they understood one thing the modern approach has forgotten. You do not have to solve the whole yard. You only have to solve the place where you sit. By the early 20th century, American public health already knew this. Mosquito control meant source reduction, screening, drainage. The principle has not changed. My mother just did not need a university bulletin to tell her what her own mother already showed her. The compounding habit is a Sunday porch walk and a 10-minute check after every rain. Tonight, set up your chair area. This week, dump and scrub every water holder on the property. This month, decide which porch or doorway is your breeziest evening sitting spot and make that your regular setup. All season, set the clove bowls out when you sit down and bring them in when you go inside, not as a decorative all-yard ritual, but as a deliberate small zone practice. The reason this saves money is that the weekly habit attacks the mosquito problem before you feel desperate enough to reach for the fogger or the candle or the spray. One more time, another $5 to $13 gone. Now be honest about what this does. I want to tier the evidence very plainly for you. Strong. Emptying and scrubbing water containers weekly. Covering stored water. Repairing screens. Using moving air where you sit. These are the methods the CDC and University Extension Services return to again and again because they work and they are proven. Mild to moderate. Crushed clove used close to the body or porch chair as a small scent barrier. There is real science behind eugenol, but protection varies with concentration and drops off as the volatile compounds dissipate. This is a real helper, honestly placed. Weak for this exact use. Scattering dry turmeric powder outdoors as if it were a tested yard repellent. The interesting science is mostly on extracts, isolated compounds, and laboratory larvicidal work, not on a backyard dusting with kitchen powder. I would not build a video promise on something I could not defend on the page. Where the whole system does not hold. Wet, wooded properties with heavy cover. Big, dusk swarms. A neighboring yard full of neglected breeding sites you cannot control. Community disease outbreaks. And evenings when you need reliable bite prevention for health reasons. In those conditions, you use an EPA-registered repellent. You call your local mosquito-control district if breeding is bad in the neighborhood. And you treat a $2 porch trick as what it is, a comfort measure for a small zone, not a substitute for real protection. The safety piece is simple, and I will say it plainly. Do not treat crushed kitchen spices as a replacement for proven personal protection when mosquito-borne illness is a concern in your area. Do not improvise concentrated essential oil skin products at home and assume they are equivalent to registered repellents. They are not tested the same way, and you do not know the concentration. Do not burn piles of spice or create heavy smoke around children, pets, or enclosed areas. And do not use any outdoor insecticide product in ways its label does not allow. A cheap method is only a good method if it is safe and honest. Now I want to take a moment, because here is where it all comes together. Look at what we have walked through. 1. Stop hatching them. Free, strong, 10 minutes a week. 2. Build the clove microzone. About $2 per evening setup, mild to moderate, close range. 3. Add a fan, free if you own one, about $26 if you buy one and it lasts you all summer and beyond, strong for immediate comfort. 3 layers, and only one of them costs you anything tonight. The honest math is plain. Your generous porch setup using about a third of that bag of cloves lands right around $2 for one evening. If you already own a fan, that is your total. If you buy a basic box fan for $26.38, amortize that across the whole summer and it becomes a few cents an evening. A one-time spend, not a recurring one. Now line that up against the store habit. A citronella bucket candle runs about $5.56. A typical bug spray runs $4.97 to $7.48. A yard fogger can is about $12.58, and it covers a limited area for a limited time before you need another one. Add those up over a summer of Saturday evenings and cookouts, and the store habit quietly takes $50, $60, $80 or more, bought again and again, because each one runs out and none of them solves the breeding or the airflow. The $2 porch trick, kept up as a weekly habit with a fan you already own, replaces most of that recurring spend. The bigger value is what you no longer keep buying from the seasonal aisle every time the weather turns warm. There is no money in teaching a family to dump the standing water, drag out a fan they already own, and set out $2 worth of crushed cloves by one porch chair. There is no company with a reason to build a business around that. There is a great deal of money in selling the candle, the spray, the fogger, and then the next one after that, every warm weekend, all summer long, year after year. So the little household knowledge fades, not because it never worked, but because it does not refill a shopping cart. This is not a conspiracy. It is plainer than that. When something works without you paying for it again and again, nobody has a financial reason to teach it to you. You can be the one who never paid. This was never really about one spice. It was about whether every summer annoyance sends you back to the store or whether your home still knows how to solve a small problem with judgment instead of another purchase. A household that depends on the seasonal aisle is a household that pays and pays. A household that understands the water, the air, and the chair, that household sits outside on its own terms. Here is what I want you to do tonight, after supper. Walk the yard and dump every container that holds water. Scrub the ones you keep. Set out 4 small dishes of gently crushed whole cloves around your favorite sitting spot. 2 low, 2 at table height. Drag a fan out and set it low, aimed across the chair, on medium. Sit down. That is your $2 porch system, and it starts working the evening you build it. This week, check every saucer, bucket, toy, and bird bath on the property. Make the water walk a habit, not a one-time event. This month, decide which porch or doorway is your breeziest evening spot and commit to it as your regular summer setup. This season, stop buying one-off mosquito comfort products until the simple system has had a fair try. Use an EPA-registered repellent on yourself when conditions call for reliable protection. Keep the $2 setup honest and keep the weekly rhythm going. That is where the saving compounds. Now, I have 2 things I want to hear from you. First, what is the summer expense you are most tired of buying over and over? The candle that barely works? The spray you grab and forget? Tell me which one. And second, if your mother or your grandmother had a porch trick or a pantry trick for flies or mosquitoes, the thing she set by the door, the way she kept the screen porch clear, the little kitchen habit nobody else remembers, write it down below. These little inherited methods disappear when nobody writes them down, and I read every single one. Next time, same principle, different problem. The cheap pantry thing that helps keep flies off an outdoor table without another gadget from the seasonal aisle. Subscribe so you do not miss it. Until then, dump the water, crush the cloves, turn the fan across the chair, and sit outside on your own terms tonight. That is how the careful old folks kept a porch livable on almost nothing. That is how it is still done in any home that remembers.